You are listening to the Embrace the Mud podcast, where we discuss all things related to healthy, joyful, and life-giving relationships. Why focus on relationships? Because the quality of our intimate partnerships and close connections influences our health, happiness, and longevity more than anything else in our lives. Relationships matter a lot, so together, let's jump into the mud, aka our messy relationships, pull some weeds, plant some seeds, and create an enriching environment where strong relationships can take root. I am your grateful host, Dara Posner. I am a relational disaster working toward relational mastery. I am also a positive psychology coach, a relational mindset coach, a blogger, and now a podcaster. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Embrace the Mud podcast, where we discuss all things related to healthy, joyful, life-giving relationships. If you are a fan of this podcast, please subscribe, follow, like, review, and share. Your engagement in this way is crucial to the success of the podcast, and I appreciate you taking just a few seconds to support my mission, which is to help people like you flourish in life and love. Today on the Embrace the Mud podcast, we are in the last couple of episodes of our Relational Weed series, where one by one, we talk about some of the most destructive relational habits and behaviors. And our goal is to try to understand the behaviors themselves, how they impact relationships, and identify more loving and constructive ways of being toward our partners. Today's weed is stonewalling. Stonewalling is essentially a refusal to engage or respond. Someone who is stonewalling has shut down and become silent and withdrawn. What causes someone to stonewall? How does it impact their relationships? And what can be done instead? That's what we're talking about today, so let's dive in. Have you ever been in an argument or a fight with your partner and suddenly just feel completely emotionally flooded, just really, really overwhelmed? And your response to that overwhelm and to protect yourself from being overwhelmed even further was just to completely shut down and stop engaging? They maybe are still talking and sort of, trying to make their points and, coming at you, and you are no longer responding to any of it. You have just cut yourself off, shut yourself down, disengaged. Maybe even you've walked away into the kitchen. You're starting to clean off kitchen counters. You're doing the dishes. And they're like, hello, what's going on here? And you just continue to ignore them, and you are just not in it anymore. And often, if you have done that, you've probably experienced an escalation on their end, right? Because now they're feeling ignored, they're feeling abandoned and rejected, and they're going to come in even hotter in that pursuit to get a response or a reaction. And then you may actually take off, leave the room, go lock yourself away someplace else. That is what stonewalling looks like. And stonewalling happens because a person gets really, really, really emotionally overwhelmed, and their response to that overwhelm is to shut down. Not exactly a behavior that is going to foster a whole lot of trust and connection, which is why the Gottmans consider it one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Those are the 4 behaviors that they have recognized as the ones that, when they become a habit in a relationship, they typically will destroy that relationship, because they do put people at odds with one another and feel really, really disconnected from each other. So if you're someone who experiences a lot of overwhelm when things get heated and, really regulating your emotions, isn't something that you can do without really just backing off and taking a break. What can you do instead of just shutting down completely and ignoring your partner, and sort of just cutting yourself out of the really difficult experience, that difficult experience of being in a fight or being in a heated argument? The problem doesn't lie in wanting to separate yourself or take a break to calm yourself down. A lot of stonewallers will say that they actually get silent and stop engaging because they don't want to make things worse. Their intention sometimes is, okay, I'm going to stop because I don't want to say anything that's going to make my partner even more upset than they already are, or I just don't want to say the wrong thing. And so they say nothing, which actually creates the very effect that they're trying to avoid, because by feeling ignored, their partner does get angry, sometimes very, very angry, and it does not have the intended impact. It doesn't have any positive effect. So what can you do to help yourself out and also create a situation that doesn't escalate your partner and doesn't leave them feeling rejected and abandoned in a moment like that? What you can do instead is say, I'm feeling flooded. I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. And I know that I can't communicate rationally and in a healthy way with you in this moment. Things are getting really heated. I think if we keep going, we're really just going to hurt each other and ourselves. Can we please just take a pause and come back to this when we're both calmer, when we both feel more grounded and regulated? And, you can ask for a specific amount of time. I need a 30-minute pause, and I'm going to go into my room and I'm going to take some breaths and maybe strum my guitar or whatever I have to do to calm down and come back to the conversation. Because it's okay that you need a break. It's okay that you want to exit that experience at that moment, because at that time, by that point, it's not going anywhere good. And you realize that, and that's a good thing, right? So rather than just shutting down completely and cutting your partner off, you can communicate to them what's happening inside of you and tell them that you need to take a break and reassure them that the conversation will continue and that it is important to you to work through the conversation, to get to a better place, to find a resolution or whatever the goal needs to be. But in a little while, when you are both in a better place to be able to do that, so that you can actually succeed. So I hope that helps. I am not a stonewaller, so I can't really personally relate to that experience. I am more of somebody who, no, I've got to talk about it. I want to talk about it now. And I tend to have a pretty high tolerance for conflict, right? Like I can handle it, but not all people can. Some people, get really flooded and overwhelmed in tough conversations and in heated dynamics. And it's absolutely okay to take a pause, calm things down, and come back to the conversation later. So that's what I have to share about stonewalling. I hope you found this helpful. I have one more episode to do, which I'll do on Monday, just a couple of days here since we have the weekend coming up. And then we'll be done with the Relational Weeds series, and we'll be moving on to another series. That one is going to be about the absolutely essential communication skills that we all need to develop if our goal is to create a healthy, life-giving, joyful relationship, which is what we're always talking about here on the Embrace the Mud podcast. So I'll be back on Monday. I'm looking forward to doing the last episode of this series then. And in the meantime, please remember, you are wired for love and connection. You are capable of love and connection. You are worthy of love and connection.